James stood at the observation deck of Lunar Station 7, his weathered hands pressed against the reinforced glass as he watched Earth rotate below. 15 years. 15 years since the departure, since humanity had watched half their population vanish into the stars with beings they barely understood, since Anna had left. The coffee in his thermos had gone cold hours ago, but he didn't move. Every evening he came here, watching the planet that had once been whole, searching for something he knew wouldn't come. The therapists called it maladaptive behavior. James called it hope. "Sir, the station is closing this section for maintenance," a young ensign said softly behind him. They all knew James. Everyone on Lunar 7 knew the man who waited. 5 more minutes, James murmured, his breath fogging the glass. The ensign nodded and retreated. They always gave him 5 more minutes. James had been 32 when the Gendari arrived. The galaxy's oldest surviving species, they'd said. Refugees from a dying region of space, seeking shelter and partnership. Humanity, still reeling from near self-destruction, had welcomed them with cautious optimism. The Gendari were beautiful luminescent beings of shifting light and energy, capable of taking forms that seemed pulled from dreams. Anna had been assigned as a cultural liaison. James remembered the day she came home, her eyes bright with wonder, talking about the Gendari delegate she'd met. Listra. A scientist like Anna, they'd bonded over quantum mechanics and astrophysics, over theories that bridged to species' understanding of reality itself. James had been happy for her, even when the long hours turned to longer nights at the embassy. Even when Anna started speaking in fragments of the Gendari's harmonic language, her voice taking on an otherworldly resonance. Then came the proposal. The Gendari needed to return to deep space, to the vast stellar nurseries beyond the galactic rim where they could restore their civilization. But they'd grown to love humanity. They offered partnership not as subordinates, but as equals. "Come with us," they sang through translators. "Help us build a new future among the stars." 3 billion humans accepted. 3 billion people walked into the massive void ships that materialized above Earth. Shimmering constructs that defied physics. Families divided. Civilizations fractured. And Anna, holding their 2 children, Marcus, age 7, and little Sophia, just 5, had looked at James with tears streaming down her face. "Come with us," she'd pleaded. James had been terrified. The Gendari were unknown, their technology incomprehensible. The journey would take them beyond all human space, into regions where rescue would be impossible. He'd said no, begged her to stay. Anna had kissed him one last time. "I have to do this. For them. For their future." "What about our future?" James had shouted. "We'll come back," Anna had promised. "When Marcus and Sophia are grown, we'll come back. I swear it." The void ships had launched, tearing holes in space itself, and vanished. 15 years of silence. The UN established protocols, support groups, memorials for those who might never return. Some called the departed fools. Others called them pioneers. James called them every night in his dreams, reaching across an impossible distance for children who were growing up without him. A flash of light made James's breath catch. Not the normal stellar activity. Something else. Something that made the hair on his arms stand up the way it had 15 years ago. "Sir." The ensign's voice cracked with urgency. "Sir, you need to see this." The void trembled. Space itself seemed to peel back like a wound, and from that impossible aperture came ships. Not the graceful Gendari void ships, but something new. Hybrid constructs that married human engineering with Gendari artistry, angular hulls wrapped in flowing light. Vessels that seemed both solid and ethereal. James's heart hammered against his ribs. The fleet dispersed across Earth's orbital space, broadcasting on every frequency. The message was simple, repeated in every human language. "We never left you. We have returned." The docking bay of Lunar 7 transformed into chaos. James pushed through crowds of personnel and civilians, following the beacon on his comm that shouldn't have been Possibilina's beacon. The one she'd promised would always find him. Airlock 7 cycled open with a hiss of equalizing pressure. She stood there, and James forgot how to breathe. Anna had aged, yes, but she was radiant in a way that transcended human beauty. Her skin carried a subtle luminescence, and her eyes held depths that spoke of wonders he couldn't imagine. She wore clothing that seemed woven from starlight itself, and she was smiling. Beside her stood 2 young adults. Marcus, tall and strong, his father's jaw and his mother's eyes. Sophia, graceful and bright, with that same otherworldly glow that her mother carried. "Dad," Marcus said, his voice deep and breaking with emotion. James couldn't move, couldn't speak. 15 years of grief and hope and longing crashed over him like a wave. Anna stepped forward, closing the distance between them. "I told you we'd come back," You're here, James whispered. You're really here. We're here, Anna confirmed, and suddenly his arms were full of her, of the family he thought he'd lost forever. Marcus and Sophia wrapped around them both, and James wept without shame. I don't understand, James managed. The journey, they said it would take centuries. Time is different out there, Anna said softly. The Gendari taught us things about the universe that humanity never dreamed. We've built wonders, James, cities in the stellar nurseries, gardens that grow in the hearts of newborn stars. And we did it together. Human ingenuity and Gendari wisdom. Marcus pulled back, his expression serious. We came back to bring the rest of humanity forward, to share what we've built. No one gets left behind this time. The departure wasn't an abandonment, Sophia added, her voice carrying that same harmonic quality her mother's had developed. It was humanity testing our wings, and now we're ready to fly. James looked at his family, at the impossible miracle of their return, and felt something he hadn't allowed himself in 15 years, belief in the future. Tell me everything, he said. Anna smiled, taking his hand. We have time. Finally, we have all the time in the universe. Behind them, Earth hung in space, and beyond it, the stars waited, not as a final frontier, but as home. End.